Hello, my name is Noemi Huancar Núñez, and today I will talk to you about seed rain successional feedbacks in wet tropical forests. As we know, most of the original global extent of tropical forests has been lost to deforestation caused by many human activities, being one of the most important the conversion to agricultural use and posterior abandonment. Here, we focus specifically in these areas, and we denominate these areas now after human-modified landscapes. Seed dispersal is a key process that establishes the initial template for seedlings, saplings, and trees, so it can affect the recovery and the maintenance of species diversity. Yet, seed dispersal is increasingly disrupted in contemporary human-modified landscapes. Also, in general, all these plant stages are influenced by processes that regulate them as a community. For example, two important processes are the determinism and the stochasticity. Determinism produce directional and orderly changes in species abundance and composition to time with convergence towards a climate community, which will make the late successional communities to also be more similar to each other. Recent studies have viewed determinism mainly as a function of successional niche, defined in tropical forests as a replacement series from early successional light-demanding species to late successional shade-tolerant species. On the other hand, we have stochasticity. And stochasticity is viewed as arising from non-deterministic outcomes, which combined with priority effects can lead to idiosyncratic successional trajectories or late divergent and heterogeneous communities. Seed rain in secondary forests will be affected by these processes. But first, an important factor is the seed source. And for seeds coming from the surrounding landscape, it will be important the proximity to the species composition of the seed source, the availability and the diversity of the dispersers, and the landscape context influencing the movement of the seeds. Seed rain into secondary forests can also be affected by the successional trajectory of the forest vegetation itself, creating seed rain successional feedbacks that operates in addition to the assembly trajectories defined by successional niche. So we define here seed rain successional feedback as a deterministic assembly process. These feedback are different from successional niche because successional niche arise due to changes in local environmental conditions, such as understory light availability. For example, the understory of older successional forest sites have lower light availability, which increasingly favor the establishment of more shade-tolerant species as succession proceeds. In the case of seed rain successional feedback, the feedback is driven by the particular species present in the overstory and not by changing environmental conditions. And so in this case, priority effects are magnified by limited seed dispersal in human-modified landscapes. So in this study, we have two specific questions. The first question is if seed rain in successional forests are more shaped by stochasticity or determinism. And the second question is how the strain of successional niche and seed rain successional feedback change during succession. For this talk, we are focusing only in the question number 2. So in order to answer this question, we use 5 sites of different successional ages in La Selva Biological Station in Costa Rica and areas nearby the biological station. And we combine both time series and chronosequence approach and collected seed rain for 4 years, in 96 and 97, when the sites were ranging in age from 12 to 25-year-old, and then 20 years later, when the sites were 32 to 45-year-old. And we also collect data in mature forests. In all these plots, we collected seed rain in traps and identified each of the seeds to the species level. With that, we found the following results. First, the taxonomic composition of the seed rain differ across forests of different successional ages and across both time periods and between secondary and immature forests. As we can see here, the seed data in 97 and 99, here in the red labels, are in a different space in the ordination than themselves 20 years later, that will be here in the blue label. And these sites themselves are in a different space than the mature forest, but closer to the mature forest. So now specifically to answer about the strain of successional niche and seed rain successional feedback, first, we use similarity indexes. So in this case, each of the secondary forest sites was compared to the composition of the mature forest in 97 and 99, and then each of the secondary sites in 2015 and 2017 were compared to the mature forest. And we can see here that regardless of the similarity index used, meaning present absence, abundance weighted, or dominant species, the seed rain in each secondary forest site became more similar to that of the mature forest over time. Similar results can be observed in the functional convergence here in figure D and E, where the percentage of the species here in the y-axis, for example, of large seeds, are increasing by successional time, with successional time being portrayed in the x-axis. The same with the shade-tolerant species that is increasing as succession proceeds. These results are consistent with the successional niche assembly process. We also compare the between secondary site similarity. In this case, each of the secondary sites were compared with each other in 97 and 99, and then in 2015 and 2017. And we can see here that in general, and more clearly in figure D, present absence, the similarity between secondary sites decreased by time. And this could be explained by successional seed rain successional feedback that will be explained shortly. So here we have the seed rain successional feedback. And in this figure A, each of the dots will be a species. And we can see here that the taxonomic composition of the seed rain here in the y-axis is correlated with its tree abundance that is here in the x-axis. And also the strain of this correlation is increasing with successional age, as we can see that the late successional forest sites that are here inside the blue box have higher and significant values than themselves when they were 20 years younger. This is consistent with increasing importance of seed rain successional feedback that will act to reinforce priority effect, producing divergent seed rain patterns across these secondary sites. The increased importance of seed rain successional feedback is also supported by figure B, where we can see that the proportion of immigrant seeds here in the y-axis are decreasing by successional age, with successional age here in the x-axis. So with this result, similarly, we expect that the strain of the seed rain's successional feedback will increase as human modification of the landscape increase from low to high, because human modification of the landscape involves many processes, including deforestation and reduction of the matrix permeability that will affect the seed. This increase in the strain of seed rain successional feedback will be driven by the declining proportion of immigrant seeds with successional age, and this will have consequence for the spatial heterogeneity of the species composition when comparing between secondary forest sites. So this will result in increasing convergence through succession in less human-modified landscape, as deforested sites should recover faster and receive many seeds from a larger proportion of the regional species pool, because more seed sources are near and the dispersal agents can still move. In the case of increasing divergence through succession, this will happen when there is more human modification. In this case, many seed sources will be out of reach, and so the regeneration becomes more strongly influenced by priority effects, followed by local within-site seed rain as succession proceeds. As a result, seed rain successional feedback will create greater spatial divergence among secondary forest sites. And lastly, increasing convergence through succession should happen in the case of the most severe human modification. In this case, this will happen because the adult tree will be strongly constrained to represent the most well-dispersed generalist species from the regional pool. Finally, if the imprint of the seed rain successional feedback persists to the seedling and later stages, then the secondary forest in human-modified landscape should continue to diverge as succession proceeds, creating historical contingent landscape of forest sites in compositionally dissimilar stable stages. So with that, we have the conclusion first that even though seed dispersal is often highly stochastic, we can see also an insignificant increase of determinism as succession proceeds. Second, seed rain successional feedbacks can promote divergency. And third, seed rain successional feedback may become more influential in increasingly human-modified tropical forest landscapes. With that, I want to thank you for listening to me, and also I want to thank all the support that this research has had.